All right. Welcome everyone. This We Are the Game, and I'm Michael. That's Luke. And today we're going to talk about the Arizona Cardinals' recent home game against the Atlanta Falcons. Another game, amazingly, and it's got to be a record, that is a one-score game between two teams. So again, the Cardinals are right in it. Seemed like similar to the Cowboys. The first half, the Cardinals were right in the game. Everything was going pretty well, I would have thought overall. And then stuff changed around halftime. I don't know exactly that I could point out what exactly, but it'll be interesting to dig into. When you look at the game and kind of how this played out, was it really kind of the story of two halves, or were other factors that came into play? What did you see out there?
Our red zone offense was not great. We were able to move down the field relatively well, but we just couldn't punch it in. I mean, it's why we had 4 field goals and 1 touchdown. And the 1 touchdown we had was not a red zone touchdown, so to speak. It was a long pass, that freak catch that Michael Wilson made that he didn't even know that he had made, that turned out to be a touchdown. So cool highlight play, but not something I'm really gonna like. I'm glad it happened, but I'm not really gonna patch on the back too much for this thing that was like a 1 in a million kind of deal. But again, hooray, made the game look closer, because that was the only touchdown we had. Their red zone defense was very good. So credit to Atlanta for that. As much as obviously their season's over, as much as ours is, credit to them, 1, for winning this game the way they did, and 2, for winning this game and making the Rams draft pick worse, and simultaneously keeping ours as bad as it is. So the Cardinals, in some ways, you could say the Cards did the right thing, because now we made it look like it was close, but really we were just tanking. So yeah, good job, Cardinals. But yeah, no, it was, their defense is pretty darn good. I will say they didn't have a great game of pass rush, like getting after the passer, or our offensive line had a really good scheme this week. Could have been a combination of both, of course. But we talked about it briefly before the stream that they normally get about 40% pressure rate in a game, which is solid. Like, they're a pretty good pass rush, and they have good blitz packages and things like that as well. These young guys that they drafted have both panned out quite well year one. James Pierce Jr. and I think it's Javon Walker. Forgotten his name suddenly, but these 2 guys they drafted have both done a great job. So kudos to them. But on the other side of this, we allowed 2 sacks. That's not too bad. Just a few, a few hits. Other than that, I think it was 21% pressure rate this week. So great job, Cardinals offensive line. I don't get to tell you that often enough. Please keep doing that, and then do it again next year. So yeah, I mean, the story, first half, second half, yeah, we only scored 3 in the second half. They clearly, once again, and you've heard me say this before, they made second half adjustments, and it seemed to work out quite well. So I do think that also in the second half, we got a little more desperate. Just like, hey, we don't need field goals. We need a touchdown. And so we might have been able to get a field goal here and there, or set ourselves up for one, but instead went for 7 and just came up with nothing. So I don't think that happened a whole lot. I think mostly it was just their second half adjustments worked better than ours did. So
on Chad Ryland missed 2. I'm trying to remember exactly where those were, but yeah, and that wouldn't have been that'd have put you down 1, and like you said, may have taken some pressure off. But I mean, ultimately, like you said, you'd have needed another touchdown in there somewhere. Your defense had some pressure on Kurt. Like there were, I think, 4 quarterback hits and a sack. What did you think about the line play? Because ultimately, this game really, from an offensive standpoint on the Atlanta side, it really seemed like this game was really just the extraordinary athleticism of Bijan Robinson, who had 16 carries for 76 yards and then 7 receptions for 92 yards and a touchdown. I mean, what was your kind of take on your defense? Because outside of that, this is a different game.
Yeah, he is their offense right now. There have been some weeks where Kyle Pitts was, and he was active this game as well, got in the end zone. Credit to Kirk Cousins for figuring out how to use that guy, because no one else seems to have been able to. So that's good job. But yeah, Bijan has been and was again their offense. Like, he is, I think they said he has 2,000 scrimmage yards this year, which hasn't been done much. So, I mean, I guess he could hypothetically challenge Chris Johnson, but he'd have to have 2 whale weeks closing out the season for to get over 2,500. But yeah, no, he is their offense, and we weren't. I mean, we didn't get shamed, I don't think, with how much
Oh,
he put up. But he
yeah,
put up a lot, like 100
yeah,
and whatever that 181 net yards is a lot for one player. But it didn't feel like it just felt like that was their offense. That's what they wanted to do, and
yes,
we couldn't. We just couldn't stop it. So, but yeah, no, Bijan is great. He's going to get paid a lot of money. On the other
yeah,
side of this, our defensive line, because a lot of that stuff I felt like was to the outside. Algier was more up the middle, I felt like, and that was where the D line could get a little help. I think
yeah,
in this game also we went more for pressure. So we talked about Atlanta
yeah.
only having a pressure rate of like 21%. Ours was close to 50. And we don't normally get after it that much. And I'm wondering if we put like a hyper focus on getting after the quarterback because Kirk Cousins is immobile or whatever
Yeah.
matchup they saw. And that just came back to bite us a little bit in the run game. That can happen. So we'll see moving forward what they decide to do.
Yeah, I mean, I also wonder something about what you were just saying there is I wonder if with some of these you have a lot of young talent, a lot's relative, but you have some really good young talent that's out there. Yeah, we were talking about Ojulari who got a sack in this game and like just different guys. I wonder how much they're just trying some things out, trying different blitz packages, trying all these different things. At the end of the season, you're just trying to get people. I wonder if you're trying to a little bit of the strategy is let's get some guys some experience doing things we haven't done as much, and pressing that. We're not too worried about the outcome. Like, Bijan gets 100 yards rushing, it's no big deal. We want the experience, kind of a thing. I don't know. It'd be interesting to see about that. It's just again the Falcons have these games where they score 35, 40 points, and then you have these games where they can't figure out how to do anything.
Yeah.
And it's like it's another game where I can't help but feel like, like your defense, if Dallas had your defense and they could pair it with their offense, this would be a really, really good team, or vice versa. You know what I mean? It's just they haven't, neither team has figured out both sides of the ball yet. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. Yeah, so on the so on the Atlanta side, as we were talking about, it really just seemed like the Bijan Robinson front. I mean, if you've got a guy having a day like that, you really don't need anybody else to have a day. But Drake London was back. I didn't see tons out of him in that game. I think he was just happy to be on the field right now. So, and again, why press things when you have him, a guy like Robinson out there? Was there any other things from? I know Michael Wilson had a pretty extraordinary catch, but with like Elijah Higgins and some of these other guys, were there some positives that you take away from that, or you kind of consider them more junkyard kind of things? Because we don't see Higgins have 70, 80 yards tons during the season.
The Higgins thing was surprising that they decided to feature him so much. And, I think Trey McBride finally stopped his record. He has the record. That's a silly, weird little record about how 5 catches in a game. It's like it's his. It's like 8 or 9 games or something like that. Or maybe it's way more than that. I forget. It wasn't the kind of record that I really cared about that much, to be honest. In fact, now that I'm thinking about it, I think it's more like 16. So good job. But I don't know. It feels kind of esoteric. So kind of just whatever. But Elijah Higgins, it was good for him to get a chance. He's going to be coming up on a payday as well. And now I don't think he's going to get a Trey McBride kind of deal, but whatever it is, it's good for him to get a chance to show what can happen if he's heavily featured. So that stuff is great. It has value. But yeah, at this point in the year, this stuff doesn't move the needle all that much. For Michael Wilson, outside of that big catch, he'd had a rather mundane day. Marvin Harrison Jr. had to deal with their CB1, who's one of the best corners in the NFL, kind of low key. No one talks about him as much because he's with Atlanta, but he is a really good shutdown corner. So I can forgive. I can forgive that one a little bit. I will say Marv had a drop that he should have. And it would have been a really good looking catch too. So, but it's why you bring him in. So Marvin still has some polish that he needs. I think his confidence is still there. Early in the season, he seemed like it was a bit shaky. But his confidence is still there. But yeah, lastly, just real quick before we go, a couple of really nasty injuries for Arizona. As much as it was great to see B.J. Ojulari come back from all the injuries that he's had and had a good game and look physically still great, We had two really bad ones. We had Garrett Williams go down with an Achilles. I don't want to get him backwards. And then Walter Nolen went down with an ACL. And I think both of them were non-contact. It wasn't like they took a helmet to the knee, which it's weird to say. I prefer that they didn't have anything that could be even displayed as potentially dirty. It's just bad luck in a season of bad luck, I guess you'd say. And so hopefully they can come back next season, be 100%. They're both very young. I feel worse for Garrett Williams in this particular one because he's coming up on his payday very soon. But I think that he's shown enough that he's still going to get paid. So he should be just fine. Walter Nolen, of course, is 22 years old, so he should heal up and he'll be good. So yeah, it's sad, but it was worth noting. The couple of
absolutely. Yeah, and hopefully, like you said, everyone recovers quickly. It's modern medicine is pretty amazing, but it's still unpredictable as to timelines. So we'll be tracking that as we go forward here. So the Arizona continues to trudge forward a bit through the end of the season. It's interesting the position where they've ended up in this season in terms of like draft position potentially is pretty wild. I definitely not something I was expecting, but it's added a whole nother layer of intrigue because of the possibilities of what they may choose to do with that. So yeah, we'll see what they end up doing next week against the Bengals, but we'll get into that another time. Let's wrap it up here for today. So thanks everybody for joining. If you wouldn't mind, please drop us a like or subscribe and join us in the comments. Tell us about the game. Tell us about your thoughts about either team and their chances, what they're going to do going forward. So we'd love to hear from you. Outside of that, have a great day.